asked you if you could list everything, and by that I mean everyone and everything in your environment that currently has access to critical data and information, could you do that? Or if I asked you if you were 100% confident that your organizational policies are accurate and enforced over who should have access to what, would you say, you bet, we got that? Or if I really wanted to push you to the limit, I said, hey, how about if a bad actor or their agent was trying to access critical data with malicious intent? How quickly could you detect that, stop it, ensure your organization understood what had happened, and protect yourself from that in the future? Now what would you say? Well, if you remember one thing from my talk and the talks this morning, we want you to remember this. Today is a new day in the realm of identity security. It's the beginning of what we're calling adaptive identity. So you might ask, how did we get here? Well, some of you have been with us a long time on this journey, and you know that for a long time, SailPoint has talked about answering three core questions. Who has access to what? Who should have access to what? And what are they doing with that access? And if you roll back the clock to the 1.0 era, it was pretty simple. The who was mostly our employees, and the what was mostly our data and applications in our data centers, right? Kind of those first two questions. But then we kind of got into the next era, maybe a decade or so in, and we took what we had learned through all of those thousands of implementations at that point and brought it into the realm of SaaS. And we got a little more sophisticated, right? We made it a cloud-first offering. We started to infuse early in generations of AI. We made it much more data aware. And so we got a smarter, a more scalable form of identity security. Well, now we feel like we're stepping into yet another new era, and we thought about calling it 3.0, doesn't do it justice. As I said, we think today we're entering a new era, an era we're going to refer to as adaptive identity. Because now, the who isn't just your employees or even other people. The who is bots and machines, and of course, the new buzzword of the day, AI agents. And the what isn't a well-known list of apps that we have in our data center. It's a rapidly shifting mix of cloud platforms, systems, data stores. And we've added more complexity to this because now we've got to understand not just the who and the what, but the where and the when and the why does that access need to happen. And so for this and other reasons, what you're going to hear this morning from my talk and Matt's talk and Chandra's talk is that this is not IGA 3.0. This is not your father's IGA, you Chevrolet fans. This is no longer enough to govern access. We have to secure access in real time, all the time. In other words, it's just as important that we must rapidly and seamlessly allow the right people the access they need for business and data and competitive advantage, and just as rapidly and seamlessly respond to the bad actors and the anomalies to ensure that we understand what's happening, remediate it in real time before unwanted or unintended access becomes dangerous exposure. Why? Because everybody understands that identity is now the weakest link. The attackers know it, and increasingly all of our organizations know it. You could argue that we're facing an identity crisis, not just in the explosion of this threat landscape, but three other concepts I'll unpack for a second: the scale, the shape, and the speed of what's happening in today's enterprise. By scale, what I mean is just the sheer volume, the number of identities as we explode into non-human identities, the range and volume of entitlements that those identities are accessing, the application environments, and of course, most importantly, the data that we're trying to protect in our organizations. The shape is really referring to the changing nature of that identity landscape. Again, we've lived in a world of people as identities for a long time, but now, again, it's going to include all these forms of non-human identities, more complexity and more volume. And lastly, I don't know that anybody doesn't wake up every day and feel like the world is moving a little faster than the day before. The rate of change feels like it's coming at us faster and faster with some of these new technologies. And having been here for the whole time, I'll tell you, the old models were not built for today's challenges. They had limited visibility, they didn't really understand context in most cases, and the controls were made for a static environment, assignment and leave it. But in the realm of security, we've seen a lot of dramatic changes in the last few years, haven't we? Not so long ago, our main focus was perimeter defense. We just need to build a really strong wall and keep the bad actors out. But it's no longer about just that, is it, right? The world has completely changed. Elvis has left the building. And you know what? We're not even sure Elvis is a person anymore. By the way, just to clarify something, I was not around when Elvis entered the building. The systems we have today have moved to the cloud. We have devices that are proliferating rapidly. They're becoming more intelligent. The threats are coming at us faster. They're more intelligent threats, and they're quieter and often more dangerous. So with these changes in the identity and security landscape, it's pretty clear that the current approaches to enterprise security are no longer fully effective. They're part of the solution, but they're not enough on their own. The industry, our industry, must evolve. That was the point we made with the open letter we dropped in your hotel room, which I'm sure you readily got up and devoured this morning before breakfast. But we've seen this type of evolution many times before, haven't we, right? As fundamental shifts in the computing landscape happen, we have to respond to that in the security environment. First, if you think about it, let's roll the clock back a bit. We had the era of mainframes and data, and dumb devices, but back then even networking became the control of choice, right? We have to protect the network with these very complex networks. But then those devices at the end of the network got much more intelligent. I was around when the PC showed up. How scary is that? We moved to intelligent devices, endpoints, and we had to shift a lot of our security focus to protecting what was happening out on the network on those devices. And not so long ago, we exploded into the cloud and SaaS applications, and a whole new realm of security applications had to help us navigate that new challenge, where the data and the applications were living somewhere outside of our control in the cloud. Each of these technology shifts drove a corresponding shift in the security landscape. And today, it's pretty clear you could argue that identity has become the critical element for two core reasons. As we said before, it defines the current digital landscape, the scale, the shape, the speed. But clearly, the bad actors have figured out they are targeting identities as the means of breaking into our organizations and hurting us, right? And the rise of AI agents is just massively going to accelerate this identity threat, making it even more imperative that we change our thinking about how to protect our enterprises. Now again, I want to be clear, these other security solutions are not going away. I do not know of one of you in your organizations that's about to turn off your firewalls, right? We're not going to stop doing the things we've done to protect networks, to protect devices, to protect the cloud. But it's pretty clear today that these approaches have proven somewhat insufficient or ineffective in today's threat landscape. We need control over all the critical vectors of our environments, but particularly today, identity. And the truth is, you're here because most enterprises actually don't have a great story today. They have not got the identity controls they know they need, largely for the humans, and are very nervous about this rash of non-human enterprises. This has become a fast-moving, almost impossible to hit target. In some ways, securing the enterprise today is not unlike managing a sky full of nonstop traffic, fast-moving, somewhat unpredictable, changing direction. But what we need in response to that is identity with control with purpose. Just like that modern airspace needs more than radar just to have visibility of what's happening, we need more than just visibility or simple controls over this access landscape. We need a system that's real-time, that's intelligent, that's dynamic, that's built to govern and secure not just who's in the air, but what they're carrying and where they're going and what they're going to do with that when they get there. That's where SailPoint comes in. In some ways, you can begin to think of us as air traffic control for enterprise security. Just like air traffic control manages thousands of flights across these multiple intersecting paths, we're setting ourselves up to continuously govern the status and the movement of those identities across your digital enterprise, monitoring, adjusting in real time to respond to threats. But just like every flight has a manifest detailing what's on board that flight and what kind of data and systems it might touch. The identity is the same way, right? Just like a manifest covers what's on board that plane, the identity covers what data could be accessed with that identity and what kind of privileges does that identity carry. And if we can't see and govern that, then we're flying blind. When identity is firmly in control, we believe your teams and the technology you need to deploy for your business will be able to move faster, safer, and more confidently. That's the power we want to bring to you with SailPoint in the future. It's turning that chaos into clarity, turning that risk into resilience. We believe it's time to evolve our identity world from a reactive approach in our environments and a static set of controls to a very proactive, dynamic, and even strategic approach to enterprise security. In fact, the way we'll talk about it today is that identity is actually becoming the critical control plane for enterprise security. It's time to recognize that reality. So let me spend just a few minutes painting a vivid picture of what it could look like with this reimagined approach to identity, with identity at center stage, taking away some of that uncertainty and chaos, and creating new possibilities for speed in a safe way. What could emerge is a controlled, focused, strategic level of execution, a secure digital enterprise. So imagine a world, I could channel my Rod Serling here, imagine a world. Imagine a world where access is earned in real time, based on policy and context. So if that third-party contractor in your organization needs to spin up a cloud instance, they would get just the access they needed for only as long as they needed. When the job was done, that access would evaporate. No tickets, no chasing approvals, no over-provisioning to make sure they had what they needed, just real-time, well-governed access. What if security tools didn't overreact to risk, but responded with precision? Imagine that if the moment a user attempted to access sensitive data from an unusual location, after hours, from a new device, the system didn't suddenly block everything and flood the SOC with alerts. Instead, the system understood that context of that identity and that identity's entitlements, their role, their prior behavior patterns, and then adapted, taking the right action, maybe limiting access, maybe triggering some form of step-up verification, maybe revoking or all privileges, but that wouldn't be the default. That would create less noise, less disruption, none of the false positives that we see commonly in security today. In other words, no more blunt, coarse control, but confidence through precision and clarity. And what if these AI agents that we're all excited and terrified of weren't allowed to act freely, but governed and controlled at all times? Without that level of control, we've heard stories of agents spinning up sub-agents that access unprotected data. Back to our analogy, moving across your enterprise like a drone swarm, getting into things they might not need to get into. So now our security teams are faced with the challenge of not just managing the actual human users and even some of the bots and programmatic access they're doing, but ghost agents that seemingly come from nowhere that are autonomous, that can access data that's not clearly protected. That unchecked ownership, that unchecked access, we create an issue of ownership blurring. Who's responsible for that? Who's accountable for that? Isn't there increased risk when we don't know the answers to those questions? But imagine if every action by an agent or a sub-agent was fully governed, fully traceable, fully understood in real time as that agent was trying to access data. That's intelligent security. That's the kind of control we're going to need to scale into the future. These imagine-if scenarios showcase identity's crucial role in identity security and enterprise security. We believe identity is becoming the force multiplier that can infuse context and insights into every other aspect of the security environment, from reactive defense to proactive real-time action, from static background administration to intelligent, risk-aware control. It's time to transform identity into the heartbeat of the business, where the security of the business doesn't interfere with the natural rhythm of the business. The chaos can subside, the business can run smoother, faster, more efficiently, and most importantly, more securely. This is the goal or the vision we should pursue for every enterprise. And we believe SailPoint is the trusted leader who will help you achieve this today and into tomorrow. So before I wrap this up and start to turn over to Matt and Chandra, I want to respond to something that you might be thinking. This is a lot. This is a lot of new ground, some big ideas, a big reimagination of what we've heard from SailPoint about identity and our role in helping the industry shape this new era. So how is SailPoint going to help us deliver on that? How are we going to make adaptive identity real in your environments? Well, let me leave you with a few reassurances before those guys come tell you more about the story. The first is we've done this kind of thing before. We've been recognized as the innovator and the leader in the authorization and governance space for most of the last 20 years. Now, moving to building real-time inline security, it's not a departure. It's kind of an extension of our core. It's what we think we do best, understanding that environment, but moving it into real time. And we're not starting from scratch here. We've been working on many of these innovations for a long time, and we have experience with these kinds of things that you might not have been aware of. Early on in our SaaS journey, we made a business decision to change, but we had an SSO tool. We get real-time authorization. We started connecting into the data world long before others in the identity security landscape were talking about that. Our view was application and data access were going to have to be managed through an identity lens. We're evolving those types of foundations with our data access security, other products you're going to hear about today, and soon, just-in-time and real-time controls for authorization and access. And why are we doing these things? Because what we've prided ourselves on for years is we listen to you. We don't sit around and make up what we think needs to happen. We listen to you, and we know what your issues and struggles are and the things you're worried about that are coming. That's where we go. So as I talk about transformation, we're going to anchor all these changes in the same 4 I-word values that some of you have heard us talk about for the whole 20 years of SailPoint's existence, right? When we're going to make this type of transformation, it's going to take a lot of investment. It's going to take a lot of focus and some smart growth from both us and our trusted partners, many of whom are here, and you'll hear from them throughout the week. The types of talented individuals that can make it happen, including some new leaders we continue to add to the organization who've got experience building scalable, real-time solutions. And we're moving fast to add more talent. And an innovation at SailPoint doesn't mean we just talk about what's coming. We want to get in front of it and deliver it. Today, faster than ever, and frankly, when you need it. That's important to us. And maybe something you're familiar with, but I'll highlight, we've had a definition of an integrity at SailPoint that has always been based on delivering on our commitments. So when we tell you what we're going to do today, you can count on it. We've done that for 20 years. We're going to deliver on what we promise. That's the kind of trusted partner we want to be for your organization. And I guess of the 4 I's in this case, impact might be the most critical. Because at SailPoint, we've always said we measure impact by results, by things that drive real results in your organizations, things that help you move the needle for you, for your security, and for your future. We have been delivering that impact for 20 years. We're delivering it today, and we will deliver it as we move into this new future of adaptive identity. We're already on our way. Please join us on the journey. Thank you.